Welcome back to another episode of Waking Up with Wisdom, a spiritual talk show where we share our unique journeys as it pertains to the ascension process. My name is Jennifer, and today I have Cassidy Bowker with Soul Scene Healing. And Cassidy is an empowerment coach who's transforming lives through breathwork, cacao, and sound healing. She embarked on a journey to discover herself after giving birth to her twins. So here's her unique story on how she stepped into her role helping the collective, and she supports those on the motherhood journey through prenatal and postpartum and beyond. And I am a really good friend of hers, and I absolutely just love this beautiful lady, and I'm really excited to be sharing your story today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you for your warm intro and warm welcome. And just you. You're so easy to be with. You're so easy to be with, I feel like. And from the moment I met you, you just bring with you this joy, this zest for life, for learning, and for meeting and gathering in community. And for me, that's very important because that's very much who I am.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And I feel like that's why we connect, because learning more about me, it's the collective mind frame, and
yes. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started doing what you're doing, and
Sure. So, I would say a long period of time, I was a little bit lost, maybe like the large majority of us, right? And going back and forth and trying to do what was right and what maybe perhaps would impress my parents. We had a little bit of a tumultuous relationship there, more so with my father. And I am an only child, so I was very much independent. And there was a period of time in high school where I sort of went my own separate way. And in that going my own separate way, I was rebelling and was also maybe perhaps looked at as I would for sure become now a failure. For sure, right? And straying off and going against.
I know that. Mm-hmm. I know that all too well.
But then even within me, it was like I was being rebellious, but I was also being rebellious about being rebellious. And so I wasn't going to be a rebellious failure. I was going to be actually very successful in my rebellion.
Oh my God, yes, we could share stories about that. I am an extremist. It's either all or nothing, and I did it in everything that I did.
Yep. Yep. So in leaving there, I ended up applying to a couple different colleges, and then so I went my separate way and went to college. Now, here's the thing. When I was in college, I was very much lost because that wasn't really truly where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do, but there was so much pressure around that. So I showed up in the ways that I thought I was supposed to still. That's when it was during that time of the housing market crash. So this was around 2008 or so. Mm-hmm. And so, again, being an only child, I had maybe even perhaps expected or just assumed that my parents would be helping me in some way, maybe financially, if I needed it. Even though I was very independent, I had always had multiple jobs. I was keeping myself busy and fulfilled and provided for. But upon moving and embarking in that specific college journey, it was during that time in which it was really hard to get a job at that time. Mm-hmm. And my parents had actually filed for bankruptcy. They had moved. It was hard time. And that's when I began to lean on drugs. And that was my, way of self-soothing. And I fell in love with ecstasy. So in embarking upon now my drug journey and feeling, like actually feeling sensation, um, um, I was sort of explorative and reading all of the books, all of the spiritual type of books, having beautiful conversations. I lived with my 4 best guy friends in a 1-bedroom apartment, and they were all musicians, and they would be singing and playing their guitars. And so there was a lot of, there was a lot of music around. There's a lot of dancing. There was a lot of exploration. It was almost like this little renaissance going on. Mm-hmm. And there I loved to sing. There was something inside of me that wanted to be expressed, but my voice, my throat chakra was still shy or held back, or maybe that wasn't the exact medium or outlet for it. There was something that wanted to be expressed. And so I would say that experience, thank God I was, again, rebelling against the rebellion, because there was a point where I told myself, okay, enough is enough. I got to get back. I got to get back on track here. So I did reach out for help. I reached out to my parents. I sort of wrote this like beautiful creative essay and then gave it to them. And it was about my life experience in that moment, in that chapter. And so I think maybe perhaps even my dad was a little bit shocked and really welcomed me to come back home. But I was very much grounded, and I had, all of my wherewithal there during that time. And then I would just felt, again, still the pressure, the force to figure it out. And why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why do we feel that so strongly? We're so young. In
programming.
Yeah.
It started like, we were, where I came from in my family, it was drilled. I didn't go to college or anything. Like, I rebelled against school, period, because I never really fit in. But got to get a job, you got to save, you got to put it away, save for retirement. And it's like, and even I notice now that my son's in high school, it's that pressure of, you got to figure out what you got to be to get into college to do that. Like, it's like, pick that role. And I told him last night, actually, we were talking about it. I said, all I want you to do is find what is in alignment with your soul. Otherwise, you're going to spend years in misery. It's not going to work out. It's not going to align, and you're going to feel lost. I told him that. So it's interesting we're having this conversation today.
Mm-hmm. Of course we are.
Yeah, but it's the matrix. That's what I believe. It's all coming from, because it goes into the design of the system, that to work, to pay your taxes, to, be that thing.
It really does. And here's the thing, there was a big shift that took place from when I was just graduating, maybe from high school and transitioning to college. And then maybe even 5-6 years later, when I was, again, like mid-20s, that I was working in a restaurant, right? And the young ones that I would see come into the restaurant that were still in high school, that were like 16, 17, they were working in that restaurant saving, because the minute they turned 18, before they went off to college, their whole thing was they wanted to go traveling, they wanted to explore the world, they want to get in touch with themselves, they wanted to have this hero's journey. And there was a big conversation about that. For me, even just 5-6 years before, we weren't having conversations about that. That wasn't, if someone did that, I mean, that was very far out. And that's so huge. Oh my God. And then I was able to witness those, again, young ones going off and on these journeys and coming back, beautiful souls that had sat with different cultures, that now maybe perhaps I picked up different languages, different ways of life, had a bigger appreciation for the earth. Mm-hmm. And that's magical. I feel like we don't do personal growth in school. We don't talk about personal growth. We don't talk about spirituality. That's for damn sure. We don't talk about, because it could be offensive, because there are many different religions out there. And I just, I just have a problem with it now. Back then, when I was in it, I thought there was nothing wrong with it, and it was great, and it serves a purpose, and it's wonderful. But now reflecting upon it, I mean, our twins are only 3, almost 4, and I have them at home with me, and I think I'm very thankful for that blessing and being able to do that, and the way that my offerings are sort of scheduled so that I can be home with them, and I'm homeschooling them, and whatever that means for 3 and 4 years old homeschool. But we work on a lot of stuff, and we have beautiful time, and the majority of our time that we spent is playing, being creative, arts and crafts, going hiking, being out in the earth, exploring different animals, flora, fauna, all of those things. It's very important. There's something about this, again, like you say, system that is all about the programming that, I mean, it's not even just here in America. It's not just the American dream that we're talking about. This is everywhere.
It's all tied together.
Yes.
I mean, it's all, if you follow the money or you follow the structure, it's all tied together. It's one big web. It is a matrix, when you look at it. And people who are embarking on those journeys, at a young age, and just experiencing different culture, like I was shielded. Even doing something like this, like my mom was very, watch the ID channel and, don't talk to anybody on the internet. And, and, I mean, it was drilled in us, like, going to, if you meet somebody on the internet and this girl met that one guy, now she's disappeared, that fear. But, when I stepped out of that, I have met the most beautiful people like you, just online and all over. I have friends all around the world, and I'm learning all different things. And when you do that, you learn the similarities, and you can gain a higher picture of what's really going on. So
I think that's a really great perspective that you have, Jennifer. And that's a beautiful thing to note, is the way that we met was, yes, online. And which brings me to another thought or conversation that I've had many times within this past, now over a year, that we have experienced the pandemic and moving online, and a lot of people are experiencing like Zoom meetings and such. And it also really going through maybe some type of suffering from the longing for physical touch. If you are, for whatever reason, separated in that sense, and having to abide by that quarantine experience. So I won't even go there. What I mean to say is that people talk about virtual reality and how it's not real. Virtual reality is not real, it's faux, and there's a big lack there and a huge disconnect that happens and takes place. You and I met online. There's nothing virtual, nothing fake about this, nothing half-assed about this. I know you, and I get to sit with you, and I have had beautiful conversations with you, and here we are sitting together again, and it's genuine, and I'm not sitting with the half version of you. I'm sitting with real you. This is real you. This is a whole version of Jennifer. This is a whole version of me. And it can be as potent and palpable as you choose it.
Absolutely. And just because we're doing this, if there is, when there is, I'm not going to say if, when there is an opportunity for me to see you in actual person, I would not treat you any different. Like, I would want to give you a hug, and, it'd make it even more. I'm on a committee for Camp Disclosure, and I met all these people online. I'm about to drive to Georgia to go actually meet them and have, a group together thing. And, it's no different.
I think that it's easy for maybe you and I to say that and to embrace that and to think about it and to even embody it, because maybe perhaps you might be similar in a sense of you have awakened and realized that you're not just this body. You're not just this form. But there are, many out there who have not, right, come to that remembrance just yet. And so they are, that doesn't make sense. I am in a body. This is me. This is all I got. And so right now I'm longing. I want that touch, and it's not here. And so it's killing me inside. And so I just aim to help, right? Aim to help, to remember, to reveal, to return some sense of recognition to soul, spirit, essence, whatever is higher, whatever label, whatever word you want to use, God, goddess, the universe, great teacher. I really don't care what you want to use, but there's something beyond this body. Which is, why in the name Soul Seen Healing really resonates with me. For me, you just come, you sit, you come as you are, you need not change, you breathe, you be, you let your soul be seen. And that's it. But the process isn't necessarily easy. And even still, after all of these years that I have now, embarking upon this spiritual awakening path or journey, getting to know my true self capital S, right? My essence. I still slip up and get triggered too. And sometimes I forget. And sometimes I'm very much in my humanity because I'm right here. And that's okay. That's okay. And that's important too. I think that we can't, okay. So I was in a breathwork session, and one of my most potent messages that came through in my life early on was that we are not these bodies, right? It came at a time when my husband and I, we were just dating, and he's an actor, and he was experiencing a lot of intimate scenes, romantic scenes. And I was coming out of a emotionally abusive relationship where there was like a lot of cheating involved. So of course, here I am to clean up those, that past experience and whatever resulting thinking and thought patterns, and maybe even karmic lessons. I don't know what it was. Now I'm in a relationship with an actor who loves me to death, who is absolutely not, he's in integrity with our relationship. He means no ill will or harm, but he has all these romantic scenes where he's kissing people and touching them. And so I lay down to breathe in my breathwork journey. The message came through, and it was the message from Spirit. Spirit is who I'm communicating with. The universe, universal wisdom is who's coming through, riding the waves of the breath, because the breath is both voluntary and involuntary. Therefore, breath is representative, symbolic of humanity and divinity. It's just bridging the gap in between worlds and realms. And what the message came through is that you are not this body. It was like, sweet girl, you are not this body. You are not this body. And I had this aha. So epiphany breaks through, the download comes in, and it comes in hot. And he, goes off for his weekend of recording. When he came home on Sunday, typically I would have had the most horrible weekend of my life in anticipation of him coming home. I would not even want to look at him. I would not want him to touch me. I would want him to brush his teeth probably about 20 times. I wouldn't kiss him for he needed a 48-hour quarantine period, because I would tell him, whoever you kissed, whoever you touched probably has an STD or something. And I was very much in my ego and triggered by all of it. So he came home that weekend, and when he walked in that door, I can remember it clearly because it was a shift. As soon as he walked in that door, Jennifer, it was pure love. It was pure love. And I welcomed him, and I took him into my arms, and I kissed him, very passionate kiss. And he was, smiling, but also taken aback.
Who are you?
And I said, I have a lot to tell you. But how was it? You tell me first, how was your weekend? How was the filming? And he just kind of looked at me, and he's like, did you talk to somebody? And I said, as a therapy session? What are you talking about? He said, no, somebody from the set. And I said, no. And he said, well, it didn't happen. The director just didn't do that scene. It's done. I said, what do you mean? It's a wrap? It's over? They just don't have that scene? What are you talking about? This is a beautiful storyline. And he said, yeah, we just didn't have that scene anymore. So the second that I embodied that lesson, I am not this body, and I felt that shift and I received that healing. It gives me chills still to this day.
I'm getting chills listening to it.
That was gone. That was no longer a thing. It wasn't a lesson that I needed to receive anymore.
So this is like why I'm so in love with Ho'oponopono. Like me doing Ho'oponopono and cacao together is like,
oh yeah.
And it's those shifts. It is those shifts. And I know that's why I'm getting chills, because I know the shift that you're talking about. And I also know after doing it, like I felt it instantly. And I have also woke up the next day and, start feeling it, like it play out in my life. And what that, guys, to kind of give you an understanding of what that shift is like when you have something that you are remembering or that is coming up to the surface and it has an emotional icky feeling to it, getting rid of that. My abuse, I have now gotten to the point of where I can look back at certain things, and we kind of experienced something prior to recording on this, looking back on something and not having icky feelings to it, and being able to just look at it as it is, because that's all it is. It just is. It's just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's profound right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think when I first lay down for breath work, I'll share a little bit more about that particular way of breath work. When I first laid down, having this experience was in a group setting. We were on a beach. It was with a dear friend of mine, actually one of my husband, Bo, his longtime high school friend's sister. And she, was expressing a lot on Instagram, and he said, "Oh, you would really like Jenna. You should follow her. She's my best friend's sister, and yeah, you would really like her." So he kind of like planted that seed. And so I started following Jenna, and we went to the beach. There was a group, maybe less than 10 people. We're all laying down in the gorgeous sun, and we're listening to music, and we're breathing, and she's cueing us through a particular pattern of breath. It's 2-part breath. 2 inhales, 1 exhale. Everything is through the mouth. And as the music is playing, she's almost like guiding us through meditation and removing energy. And so I'm hearing, this is my first time, so I'm hearing all of a sudden people are like very sobbing, crying. Some people are laughing. And so that is giving me permission to just be whatever I needed to be in that moment. And so I am very empathic. I'm aware to my empathy. And so I started feeling into the person next to me who was sobbing, crying, grieving, and I'm sobbing, crying, grieving now, and I'm with them, supporting them. And then she starts reminding us, this is very much your own journey, just as this is a collective journey. So notice, what energy is yours, what energy is not yours, and honor yourself. What do you need right now? And so now I'm having a conversation with myself. Okay, I don't need to be with this person, and I am applying maybe some of my studies from yoga. And as a yoga teacher, we and in the exploration of yoga, there is an ethical practice of yoga. In yoga, there are what's called the yamas and the niyamas. These are basically restraints or observances. And one of them is nonviolence. So we practice nonviolence. Nonviolence also, for me, and what I would like to focus on, is non-worry. To worry about somebody else, especially in a group setting, is to assume that they are incapable of protecting themselves, of healing themselves, of exploring and realizing their own thoughts along the way. Yeah. So I, in that moment, was thinking, okay, what do I need? I don't need to worry about this person. I was grieving with them, and maybe on some level I needed to grieve too. So that cleared the way for me to have my own experience. And so after that whole breathwork experience of laughing and screaming and crying, and then just breathing and messages pouring through, I sat back up and looked around at the world and had just, it was like the veil was so thin. The veil of I don't know, whatever the conditionings are, whatever, I don't know. There was some deeper meaning there. And I knew in that instant, I want to be doing this. I want to hold space for this. I feel like my whole being, my vessel is greatly compassionate and able to hold space for these. And the world needs this. Everyone needs to be held in this way where they're fully empowered to come as they are and to be just who they are. And that just who you are knows exactly the right medicine for you. Maybe perhaps you just need someone to come help and illuminate every nook, every cranny, right? Every crevice until, you figure that out for your own self. And, like Ram Dass says, that we're all just walking each other home. We need each other. We need each other to do that. When you hear the statement, you are your own healer, I think that can be triggering to some extent, because now you're thinking, oh my God, well, I don't know what's wrong with me and I don't know how to help me. And there's like a larger conversation that happens there, right? It's again, why you are maybe in the line of work that you are, and me, why I am in the line of work that I am, because we have come however far along our journey that now we have that capacity to look back and to hold space and to come on with us, and whoever is open and willing to move forward, we help and hold, and we're all just walking forward together, like holding hands. And so this
that's how we flip this planet together. You know, it's not just on this whole amazing journey that we are on, and the ascension process of not just us, but the Mother Earth herself. It's not just one person doing that; it's all of us doing together.
Yeah, and there's so many layers to it, right? To the healing. There's so many layers within you, within me. There's so many layers in this particular community and portion of the world that I live in. There's so many layers in other communities, and calls for love and calls for help all over the place. And that can be a little bit overwhelming too in itself. And thinking, oh my God, where do I even begin? Well, you begin just right here, just right wherever you are. One step at a time, one thought at a time, one piece of the puzzle at a time, kind of slow it down. We have so much time. If not in this form, the next one, we have so much time. This is an eternal experience. So this is how I was inspired to become involved with breathwork and holding space for that. Beyond breath work, I found and fell in love with cacao. A dear friend of mine introduced my husband and I to cacao, and it was actually before facilitating. My husband and I were co-facilitating a mother and father blessing way ceremony. So this is think of something like a rite of passage or a ritual that we don't really see anymore. The Blessing Way has a lineage to indigenous peoples of the American lands. I think it's the Navajo.
Okay.
Please excuse me if I'm incorrect there, but that's what I think. And similar to baby shower. So we have baby showers, and the baby shower is to support the and welcome the baby that's coming, and help give all the things, right? Give all the things. There's a list. You bring diapers, you bring all that stuff. That is very supportive. That is important. That is gorgeous and wonderful. Now, this Blessing Way is not about that. The Blessing Way is when, for example, if it's a Blessing Way for a mother to be. The mother comes, the womb space is ripe and gorgeous, and she sits in a throne-like chair, whatever most comfortable chair, or beautiful chair. And we, create flower crowns, put flowers in her hair. We have a large bowl that is going to be a foot bath, with a perfect temperature water. Maybe we apply some essential oils in there. What does she like? What scents, are supportive of her? And then we put rose petals in the water. We massage, the arms, the legs, maybe the back of the neck, the back body. All of us women are gathered around. These are women who might not even be mothers themselves to children, right? They could be elders. I've had, for my blessing way that I was so grateful to receive, it was through our spiritual center. So I think there was maybe 1 or 2 women that were there that I didn't even know, that were just women in the community who wanted to come and welcome me into motherhood and share some piece of the wisdom. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there needs more of this. We need more of this.
Yes, we do. The eldest woman there was maybe like 87, 88. And she was a woman who early on in my nursing career, how I began this whole healing pathway was I was a nurse. And so early on in my nursing career, I was a home health nurse, and I was nursing for her. I was caring for her. And she too was a big messenger along my journey. We would sit together and I would be reading like Thich Nhat Hanh and all of these gorgeous books, and Don Miguel Ruiz, and she would be reading her books, and she would look over at me and she'd say, "What are you reading? Tell me the lines that you're reading right now." And I'd read her the paragraph and I say, "You tell me the lines of whatever you're reading right now." And she would read this gorgeous, very spiritual book. And so we ended up having these deep conversations. And she introduced Bo and myself to the spiritual center that I'm talking about. Excuse me. And so it was, in the spiritual center that we were going to was largely based on A Course in Miracles. So it was with this woman, her name is Phyllis Marks. Phyllis introduced me to A Course in Miracles and this particular center. My husband had grown up with A Course in Miracles and going to a spiritual center, but that wasn't a part of his life in that moment. And so he had that knowledge too. So when I brought that up to him, of course we went. And this is the beginning, or one of the beginning stages of my journey, right? First nurse, and in that healing world and realm, and then realizing that, what are we doing here? We are healing acute problems that are happening right now, but there are these many diseases that we're experiencing right now that we're giving prescription drugs to. They have a root cause. Where did they come from? How do we manifest all of these autoimmune diseases, cancer, right? Where are these coming from? They're coming from something else. And so for me, I didn't want to just apply a bandage or give you some drugs to help soothe and maybe even not cure whatever you are going through. I wanted to help at a deeper level. And then I became pregnant, and then boom, spiritual awakening, everything starts making sense. I traveled to Bali and took a month away from my own children and family to dive deeper into that. And that was, again, spirit guided me there. That was a big leap of faith, and even sharing that news. And when you receive a download, you're so excited. Mm-hmm. And you know that spirit supports you, and so you're fueled, and you come and you almost walk into the room screaming, and you're so excited about it. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone else in that room is on the same page.
I know.
Yeah. So there was, some members of the family who were like, "I'm sorry, what?" And no, absolutely not. And that was very much a learning experience for them too. So it was not all easy. There was a lot of difficulty there too, huge challenge and struggle. But ultimately, it was absolutely beautiful. And as a mother, and you can relate to this, it's like, when is the right time then to listen to Spirit's call, to move forward and toward your dreams and goals? When is the right time, right? And we can receive a lot of that mom guilt internally and externally. So thank God for some of that, people in my life, even those who were mirroring to me those other aspects that, yes, I was feeling too, that I was blaming myself for, guilting myself, holding myself as a culprit. So, that's a little bit of how I came to be. And it all just sort of unfolded from there with cacao. And now inviting cacao into the breathwork circles and journeys, ceremonial cacao, and this is the way that you and I met, through cacao.
Sorry. This is hilarious. She likes to photobomb.
We have a cat too. She always comes when there's a spiritual something happening.
I never saw it. I would be a cat person. I had been manifesting a dog, and spirit brought me her, and I know what a familiar is now. So,
So beautiful.
yes. So, I mean, I love everything that you are saying. I'm just so fascinated by it because we need more of this. I have a very dear friend of mine, and she's my little sister's best friend. Actually, I grew up with her and everything like that. She's pregnant, and she turned 35, and she made a post the other day that said her doctor about came unglued, or they're going to induce labor because she is in critical age for pregnancy. And I was like, you're 35. You're 35, and they're now saying that's critical age for pregnancy? And they're going to induce? Like, what? Like, I think there's a whole misconception. And that's why I love what you were talking about, the ceremony for the moms and having all the generations there. Because if you tell an 80-year-old that now, they'll probably come even more unglued than I would. Because I know people that are elders that are, the youngest of 14 kids, and their moms were having kids into their 40s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And no problem. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I would, it's so hard, right? It's so hard. She's, I don't, how far along is she in her journey?
I think she's coming up to 6 months. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's like, do you change doctors? Do you not? Is that, difficult with your medical insurance? I mean, there's so many things that come into play there. But that's just not right. And that's my opinion. That's not right. I know gorgeous women, gorgeous goddesses who have had plenty of children in their 40s.
Yes. But it's like it's planting that seed out there.
Right.
That now, and you're going to be critical age at 35 if you get pregnant. What happened to experiencing life before? I've met some women who want to start having children later on in the years. Now it's like putting that stigmata out there that now you got to have the kids before, because if you're 35, that's that you're older, it's critical. I'm reprogramming because I'm 42, and I have friends that are I'm old, old age, and is sinking in. I've been told by spirit I'm going to live well past 80. Okay, I'm just getting started,
Yeah.
I still have a whole other 40 years. So no, I'm not even going to plant that seed in my head. I feel like goes back to the programming, the school system does make us disconnected from who we truly are. And it is that programming that we have to be a certain way, because I'm sorry, I'll just say it, some asshole decided to write something down and make it a norm. And it's basing our lives on somebody we don't even know. Where did they get this information? Where did it come from? How factual it is? And why does someone say that certain age? And if women are having problems at 35 having children, let's back up and ask, why is that? Because it wasn't like that 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah, this is, I think, what a lot, large reason why kind of took a bunch of steps back from modern medicine and being involved there and being in that hospital system. And I know so many beautiful people that are there still, and they are showing up in gorgeous ways, beautiful, supportive ways, and some that are very much conditioned by it, very much conditioned to just believe whatever you're spoon fed. Okay, new scientific study, new facts. Here you go. Okay, got it. And that's all I believe. That's all I will believe. That's all I will see. How is that so? How is that?
No, I do stuff personally that I know that there's a different, and like that's what the show's about, the spiritual awakening. It goes beyond, it's having that experience where you're listening to your inner gnosis, your inner truths, and knowing that what's coming from the outside in is false. It's not, there may be some truth to it. You take what resonates, but I always go with from the inside out.
I really like that. That's a beautiful foundational perspective, right? From the inside out. And that is promoting a reconnection with intuition, with that discernment process and feeling what feels right to you, and not just what you think is right.
Yes. Well, that's what, when I had my awakening, I had like all this knowledge, but I didn't know what it was. It's why I kind of became a course junkie, because I didn't know what the terminology was. Like, I was doing energy healing. I didn't know it was Reiki. I didn't know what the universal laws were, what each one was, but I knew how the universe worked and sacred geometry, and it's, that's how when things come up for me to review, I ask myself, is this from the outside coming from within? Is this something that I learned in the book, or is this actually coming from my soul, like coming from me? And that's why I guess I am a jack of all trades, because I'm old and I've experienced, my soul essence has experienced a lot of things, but I just don't know I'm learning how to explain it to people so that they can understand, which is just the label. And we can talk about labels, the whole different topic on that. So
yeah, same, Jennifer, same for me too. I think all of us, there's just so much to learn and so much to know. And words, I listen to Abraham Hicks almost every day, and Abraham Hicks, in the transmissions and the shares, like, words don't teach, words don't teach, words don't teach, but if you need them, we'll give them to you, but words don't teach. So I have a good laugh about words and labels often. And there was one thing I want to share. Okay, so yesterday I had this beautiful conversation with a dear friend. His name is Owen. On Instagram, he's Oracle Owen. And we were talking about sort of the media and this similar conversation about the programming, right? And so one thing that I reached out to him after we didn't get to talk about, and I would love to talk about this with you, is that, well, I will preface this by saying that we're all doing the best that we can with the awareness that we have in this moment. Would you agree with that?
yes.
Yes. Okay. So if we are all doing the best that we can with awareness that we have in this moment, then you look at something and let's call it media or TV programming.
Okay.
And even pharmaceutical companies or even politicians, I think you could say that they're all doing the best they can with the awareness that they have. And maybe them too have been conditioned along the way to be who they are in those roles and positions, which could, for me, when I'm not experiencing just that main concept, that foundational concept that we're all doing the best that we can with the awareness that we have. If I wasn't aware of that, I might think and look at politicians, think and look at big pharma, think and look at media, TV programming as all things that I should be fearful of, that they're dangerous, that they are not here to help and serve the highest good. So I had this realization. I was thinking, okay, because our main conversation was about media. And I'm thinking about, well, there are some things that my children watch. There are some mainstream movies that my children watch recently. Onward is one of them, a children's movie. And it's about, the main theme there is that we all have this magic that we have forgotten. We have all forgotten our magic, and it just takes remembrance and reminding each other of it. That's a beautiful message. Frozen 2 is very spiritual there. Moana, in the end, there's this, it was kind of like Mother Earth, and Mother Earth turned into this monstrous volcanic being because Maui took the heart out, right? And so Moana is standing in her truth, standing in her power. She knows and remembers, this is not who you are, and she puts that heart back in. My daughter has said that to me. It was before her 3rd birthday. I was very upset. I was yelling at the children, and she turned to me and she said, "Mama, this is not who you are." And I, in that moment, was like, "You're right." I was crying. I held them in my arms. I said, "I'm so sorry. Mommy was very upset. I'm trying to do the best that I can. But in this moment, I've forgotten. And you're right. This is not who I am. And this is not right." So we have those conversations. So my point is that there are things out there that are really beautiful messages that give me hope, that show me that even like yourself and myself having this conversation within this umbrella of spiritual community that we are a part of, even in media, even in politics, perhaps, even in big pharma, in those examples, there too, I believe, are light workers, are people that are trying still to show up in different ways. We have a beautiful family that we know here that are just now, that were social workers and whose husband is now getting involved into politics and whatnot. Beautiful people that give me hope that it's not all bad, right? That it's not all to be feared.
It's not. From my studies and from what I know, and it's interesting that you say this, because I've been kind of going back to my childhood, and I've gotten on to watching the show Dallas, because I grew up watching Dallas with my grandmother. So it's bringing up all these things, and not that it's a good show, but I noticed something that also goes in line with like the different movies, and because there's Disney movies back out there that have really good spiritual lessons and stuff like that, and a good wholesome part of it. But what I also have noticed is we'll take Shrek. There's scenes in there where it's got adult humor.
For sure.
Okay. There's lots of symbolism. There's lots of hidden messages, and it's knowing what the conscious mind and what the subconscious mind is doing. So I think where it gets into the manipulation and the evil part is the subconscious part of it. But there are some people that are aware of that, and some people that are not aware of it that are directly related to it. And I think what's going on with humanity right now is that what they believe that they are consciously aware of is all that is. And that is like the movie Lucy wasn't far off. It's like 10% of what you can imagine. It is the subconscious and the superconscious that is really dictating your whole entire reality. And that's why I feel like, like shows like that, like what you were talking about, it's teaching the children a good lesson, but you in a position of being aware and the homeschooling and being based from a higher perspective are not going to let your children be just run by like what's happening. Like I like to say is that people who are not consciously aware, it's that secretary, and no one has checked in with their secretary, and that secretary is feeding them shitty memos all day, and low self-worth, not good enough, whatever. And ego has just run rampant, and no one's checked in with anybody up there. And that's why they're in the state that they are. Where, I think when you have a higher perspective and you see things from a higher perspective and you learn, which that's what they don't teach you in school, science, they'll teach you all about this energy, but they don't ever tell the children or teach you that you are energy itself.
Yeah.
Like you are and how everything is connected. It's like they half-ass sloppy send the information out there. And they half-ass sloppy send, and they do it on purpose. And that's where the tainting is. That's in my opinion, in my perception. It is that. It's like going back to Dallas. It's not far from how the truth is of how the world and the upper class and elite work. And I have started to notice in the later years that there are pedophilia terms. And it's subtle. And I'm like, did I just hear that? And I'll rewind it. And I'm like, I did. But people don't catch that. But it's planting. It's that planting. So I think that's where the taintedness comes from. And if you don't have a higher perception, then you're just going to let that subconscious run wild. And this is how things have manifested in our current reality that we're trying to change.
Definitely. So I think it comes full circle with talking about it's a lot, for the children and navigating motherhood and parenting and the whole American dream / it's really kind of beyond. People came to America. We were not the first people to have this concept of work and make money and save money and grow. Work and make money and save money and grow. That just didn't happen just here, right? So I don't even like to just talk about that. But my point is that, us as parents, we end up working so hard that we're not involved, that then the children are being raised by the school systems, which are systems, which, abide by programs and whatever school curriculum program is meant to be for the masses.
That's mandated by the state. That's
exactly
down,
Exactly. That is not the end all be all. And that there are so many different ways and even, anyways, that's another conversation.
I could totally get on this. I agree.
But my point is that, yes, there can be beauty in many things. There can be darkness in many things. There is beauty in many things. There is darkness in many things. And so what are you going to do with it? And how can you zoom out to the point where you are truly observing and in this observational state and place of your relationships, of whatever is being modeled to you, and teach that to the children, and ask them those questions. What do you think, sweetheart? Oh, what did this remind you of? How does that make you feel? Without telling them the answers of how they should be, of how what this does do.
If you sat with a child and listened to them, just like what your daughter said to you in that moment, that's why I went back and started watching the whole Dallas thing, because my grandmother that I watched it with, I was very connected with. And now that I'm starting to remember that, I'm like, wow, gifts were full blown on and was not programmed, and I can remember all sorts of things, but it was when people were telling me what was right, what was wrong, what I was seeing, what I was not seeing. No, that's not true. All those block.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what the spiritual awakening is. When your soul is tired of having those blocks, it's going to do whatever it can to whatever it can to wake up.
Yep. totally liberated and free, and it feels really good. And yeah, I really appreciate you and your perspective and your time, and also everyone else who's listening, you know, write in and leave a comment and share with us. And I want to hear, you know, other people's thoughts based off of these conversations too, because we all have it a little bit right. And it's important to keep talking and communicating and sharing in all of the ways.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And thank you for coming on the show today. I love having these conversations. We definitely need to keep that up. And as she said, guys, please drop a comment down below. Let us know feedback from you. What do you think? Can you relate? Do you have any questions? What are your opinions? This is a safe circle, you know, like we mentioned earlier, we are all on this journey together. It is not one person doing it. So make sure, as always, to give us some love, like, and subscribe. Go follow. You will find Cassidy's links to everything down below. Definitely check her out. And as always, we will see you next episode. Thank you again for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Love, love.
With love, guys. Y'all have a wonderful day.